Well, here's a few news articles. This one I thought was very nice. Talking about how people feel lonely, and probably one good way to treat that is to go make yourself useful by helping somebody else that needs help. And this is fine advice. I think it's also part of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I found it in the Wilhelm Baines I Ching and so on. They said that if somebody feels bored, that shows that they are vain and idle, and they are thinking only about themselves. And if you just stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about helping somebody else, that will be much healthier and make you happier. And I think that's very much true. This is something I've noticed. I remember years ago, maybe 5 years ago, when I went in the summer to teach in Texas, as I often do, one of the other teachers said, "Why, you can't go to Texas. San Francisco is boycotting Texas." And I said, well, they don't have the right to tell me I can't travel to Texas. What they can do, however, is tell me that the college will not pay for my trip to Texas, and I understand that. The people in Texas paid for my trip to Texas. But this has continued. San Francisco has boycotted these states for lesbian, gay, bisexual laws, then abortion laws, then voting laws, until we're now boycotting more than half of the United States. And this points out that this is, even the guy that started all this, Scott Wiener, says it probably wasn't a good idea, and it hasn't worked out very well. And they point out how it doesn't even make exceptions, like, for example, for businesses that are not going along with the offensive laws in a state like Florida. And it also means that San Francisco has a very long process to purchase anything, and they have to pay a much higher price because there's a whole bunch of vendors for everything they want to buy that are disqualified by these laws. And so this is part of the ponderous bureaucracy that grows and grows in the Democratic-run cities until you can't get anything done, which is what, our mayor and New York City's mayor and others are trying to do something about the crime and the homeless people. And we will see, but generally Democratic cities have such a snarl of endless regulation and complexity that they can't really get anything done. And San Francisco is the peak of all that. This is pretty amazing. This is Russian state TV, and that woman works at the station, and she has barged onto the set to hold up this sign and chant "No War," and was immediately arrested, of course. But she said she's ashamed that she worked at this place. She's ashamed she spread the lies of Putin and so on. It is, yes, Mobo is correct. Yeah. Anyway, it is extraordinarily brave of her, and it may actually reach some of the people. I've read a lot of accounts and heard them on podcasts of people that call their family back in Russia from Ukraine, and they all say, "Oh no, Ukraine is full of Nazis. The Russians are stopping them from slaughtering the Russians there." They just, the propaganda inside Russia is very effective. So South Korea just had a very high-stakes election, very close election, and in fact, one thing I haven't seen the final reports on, but I saw a few days ago, they said that whoever lost this election would immediately be thrown in prison because they have had such negative campaigning, they've convinced everybody that each of them are total crooks. But anyway, this guy is an anti-feminist, claiming that the low birth rate in South Korea is caused by feminism and women need to go back to their traditional sex roles and so on. And he wants to change the laws to punish women who accuse men of rape and so on. So poisonous gender politics indeed. And the proponents of women's equality feel very unhappy about this person winning. So, we think we got political problems here. They got it in South Korea too. Two highly unpopular candidates tearing each other down until one of them finally wins and a bunch of people are unhappy at the result, which is what we've had here for a while. Elon Musk plans to solve the problem. He has challenged Vladimir Putin to single combat, with the stakes being Ukraine. I see someone saying the sounds like Republicans are expanding to other countries. Well, it is a big movement. It's not our Republicans expanding. It's the same thing appearing elsewhere. We've had the rise of Nazis, anti-Semitism, and fascists in many, many nations. And they all seem to be, there's some global force that's affecting the U.S. and other places. I don't think it's one group spreading. But anyway, I somehow think Vladimir Putin is not going to go for it, but it's a typical Elon Musk move to threaten single combat. This is something I saw on the on Twitter, and then I had to check. It's true. Oil, the price has fallen, which is rather hard to understand. I mean, presumably the reason the oil went up is because of the war in Ukraine, which led to the huge boycott of Russian oil, which will lower the supply. And so the price went way up a lot, from like $90 up to $120, but then it fell again. And I haven't heard any explanation of why it would fall again. Does somebody think the situation in Ukraine is going to get better anytime soon? I don't think so. Anyway, that's impressive. It's fallen almost back to where it belongs. And in fact, if you take a look at a longer range here, like a whole year or even the maximum, you'll see that there's just long-term trends. This is from 2021. There's kind of a gradual rise here, but the only part that had to do with the war was this little spike at the end. It has pretty much come back to sort of the baseline. So maybe OPEC is involved, but last I heard, OPEC was not going to increase production. So I don't quite understand. Maybe you can say that the original spike was too big, and when they after a few days, they soberly evaluated how much oil Russia was really providing and how much it would really matter, and it wasn't as much as they thought or something. But anyway, it'll take a stock market analyst to figure that out, I guess. The thing I noticed is it might not be so bad for Biden, because I figured Biden would have a great trouble winning the next election if gasoline price stayed high. But if it comes down, then he might be able to have more chance in the midterms and in the 24 election. So a lot of people are calling for the assassination of Putin, and this is an attractive option at first glance, but as they point out, we've tried this a lot. It used to be an official policy in the United States. We had a bunch of assassinations. Dwight Eisenhower ordered like 4 or 5 assassinations, and they all failed. And the only one they actually succeeded was killing some leader in Africa, and later on they realized the guy wasn't actually that bad and they shouldn't have killed him. So we have had a history of official assassinations, and it has turned out very badly for the United States. So I think it was Jerry Ford that officially announced that we're not going to have any more official assassinations, and I hear rumors that we do have secret teams anyway, even though they're illegal. But 680 foreign presidents, wow. I haven't heard of it being that big a number. Anyway, in general, this is probably not a brilliant idea like people think it is. I was talking to somebody on Twitter about it. I was thinking, if we did execute Putin, then I think a hardliner would likely replace him and then take revenge on America. That's why I think what Lindsey Graham said, although it wasn't a very smart thing to say publicly, in a position of power like him, was probably right. If the Russians rose up in some kind of revolution and dethroned Putin or even killed him, then they probably wouldn't punish us for that so directly. Anyway, my Russian student said that this is not normally how they do it in Russia. They don't kill their leader, they will just arrest him. And the military can have a military coup where they just arrest the leader and replace him with somebody. And it's not really necessary to kill him. It's happened before. When they get unpopular enough, the military just arrests them. All right. So let me stop this recording.